Welcome again to our course on biodesign, strategies for innovation and design on bioengineering. Today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic. It's called the ideation and brainstorming session. And what is important about this topic is that we're going to try to see the basics on how we're going to go by and try to invent cool concepts and ideas on how to solve the problems that we have already filtered down. We can see the objectives of this course. We want to understand the role of ideation, creation and generation of new ideas in the context of the biodesign innovation process. We want to learn a little bit on how we go and do brainstorming sessions and what are the different methods that we have to execute these types of sessions. Finally, I want you to consider that the brainstorming sessions are going to have critical factors that you have to accomplish and all the ways that you are going to be able to do this in the specific context of biomedical technology innovation. The ideation process has already taken a lot of needs that you have already filtered down to a few needs represented there in the diagram with 3 needs. But then we have to diverge again. We have to create a lot of concepts for the few needs that we have already chosen to start thinking on what are the best concepts that we have come up with. Sometimes, even though you can choose some needs to tackle, what it's going to be most useful is to get a need that includes all of these 3 sub-needs, if you will, to create a concept that has characteristics that solve for those specific needs within the wider scope of the big need, hopefully resolving the root cause of the problem. And what is important about this is that the different concepts that we're going to come up with to solve each specific need might at the end be filtered down again or even put together in a single concept solution that might be better than the sum of its parts. There have been many companies that want to accomplish that. There are a lot of companies that do consultancy in innovation, and just as the case of IDEO, one of the most important and renowned innovation companies out there. What IDEO does is subcontracting services on to solve the process of ideation, brainstorming, and innovation to solve the specific problems that each company has in many different sectors, not only healthcare. So as you could see later on with this, when this session concludes, you can explore the webpage on IDEO and you can see that they have worked on many different fields, from industrial engineering and airplanes, hotels, services, and many devices in the consumer industry, to, of course, all the constrictions and interesting characteristics of the healthcare system to create novel, cool products that some of which are probably going to enter in the next few years to the practice and to the market. Something really interesting is that the thing that IDEO has brought to us is a process. And the process, as you can see here, has 3 main components. It takes into account the business part of innovation, the technical part of innovation, and the human part of innovation, which they call viability, feasibility, and desirability. And in the intersection of those 3 considerations, there is innovation for IDEO. And this has come to be a very critical concept in terms of creating innovation out there, that we now consider in the biodesign process that we have to consider a lot of different factors, regulatory, business, clinical, and at the end of the day, it's the same idea. It's how you put together a Venn diagram that holds together all the characteristics and desires of all those independent sectors in the market or in the field, and how you intersect those to create something cool, novel, and that's innovation. Innovation in the broader sense is something new, but it's something new that it brings value and that also is used in the industry. So something that is just new, it could be defined as novel, but it might not be considered as innovative. Something innovative, to be innovative in my perspective, has to be used, has to be novel, and of course has to generate value, which is at the end of the day why we are analyzing market dynamics. you can see that IDEO not only creates this process in terms of the types of things that you have to consider in innovation, but also they also consider the different types of personas that you're going to encounter in the innovation process. IDEA, what they sell is this process in which a lot of different people is going to help you or help the company, in this case the medical device innovators, to analyze the problem, to organize for a good solution, and to execute that solution into an interesting and attractive product. In this sense, there are three main groups of personas for IDEO. The learning personas, the organizing personas, and the building personas. In the learning personas, we are going to see the anthropologists, the experimenters, and the cross-pollinators. And something very interesting about these three first personas, the learning personas, is that they are going to validate that the problem is indeed the one that the company actually saw. And if it is not, they are going to try to investigate as sociologists, as anthropologists, all the nuts and bolts and all the little things that are surrounding a problem to actually define it in the way it should be defined. Because the definition, as we have seen, of every single problem defines very much the types of solutions that you later on are going to create. So these learning personas, as you're going to see, are fundamental in the innovation process because they define the problem, okay? They experiment on different solutions that can solve the problem, and they also cross different ideas to create novel concepts that also include everything that all the stakeholders want to see in a good solution. After that, after having this new concept, that it's validated and that it's also a junction of different solutions, we have the organizing personas, which basically are the ones that are gonna take into reality that innovation project. In this sense, we have the hurdler, the collaborator, and the director. And these personas kind of work as the team leaders or the project managers and the collaborators in a single device development group that basically solve all the engineering problems surrounding the product. After that, we're going to have the building personas, which basically, now that we have a cool value proposition and good problem and good concept solutions, and some solutions that have already been validated with a proof of concept and a prototype, or possibly even a product already developed, we have these personas that basically create all the experience surrounding the product. As you're going to see, the experience of a product might be as important as the product itself. And IDEO has a lot of evidence supporting this, but basically in the building personas, we are going to have the architects and the designers and the storytellers and the caregivers, which basically are going to create all these concepts of why using this new product is important and why this is valuable for some of you. Okay, in this case, specifically the architect creates all the scenery, all the environment, and defines it so that you, the innovator, can actually spell out what is exactly the context in which this new product is going to change everything. What is the situation in which this product is going to be disruptive? That's what the architect does. In terms of the set designer, that set designer actually makes this even more clear and lays out everything that has to be known about what is the context of the product use, because this is also going to define either the color, the shape, or the form, or the way it's going to use or market, and at the end of the day, how successful the product is going to be. The storyteller basically gives you the value proposition in a sound fashion. They can create stories surrounding the device so that you feel connected with the idea of using the device itself. And to tell a story surrounding the device could be also very important, because if there is no story why this new device is useful or why this is going to make your life better or the life of a patient better, then the value proposition is going to be really weak, and at the end of the day you might not attract stakeholders to use it. And as you know now, to attract the stakeholders and incentivize them is one of the most important things that you could do in the biodesign process. Finally, we have the caregiver, which is the person that basically is gonna take care of the innovation towards launch. And after that, it's basically that single person or group of persons that once the product is developed and the story is defined, they do everything in their power to take that package of information and products and value to the market and to explore far beyond if actually that solution was what we wanted to be from the first place. And with that, we have covered almost all the innovation process and execution process, which is something that the ideal process has brought to us, and that is something really useful to use when thinking on medical device innovation, and specifically on ideation and brainstorming sessions. But first, right? What is a brainstorming session, and like why it's useful, and why is one of the very first things that you have to do in order to create new concepts? Well, once that you have the need that you want to resolve, and that it possibly or most likely by now has all the root causes and gives you in almost an eureka moment of on how to solve it, you put that need statement on the table, and basically you grab a bunch of people from different fields, hopefully a nurse, a clinician, a hospital administrator, someone from finance, of course, the mechanical engineers, the industrial designers, marketing people, and clinicians, and everybody that can work towards a good solution might be in the table. And it's actually pretty useful that you, in this very early stage of innovation, do involve all the stakeholders possible. And basically what you have to do is put them together in a single room to create new concepts in the way we are going to describe now. A brainstorming session is basically a session in which you are going to talk and discuss problems and solutions, and especially solutions and concepts of solutions, ideas specifically, but without deferred judgment, encouraging wild ideas, building ideas on others, trying to make as many ideas as possible, always respecting the others and with very visual focus. So a brainstorming session sometimes goes in a very chaotic manner, with post-its and someone writing something in a whiteboard or over the table, and there might be toys and food, and it's basically a very enjoyable time in which all ideas are encouraged, and in which everybody, from the problem that you want to solve, everybody has the opportunity to create a cool concept solution. Something really interesting about brainstorming sessions is that they might or might not come the way you want it, and that might be as good as bad or as bad as you think it is. But basically the tricky part about this is that a brainstorming should be as open as possible, but also constricting the brainstorming and the ideas and the solutions that are thought in this session as directed as possible towards the need statement, and that's the key. You should have a moderator and someone that actually controls more or less the flow of the activity and the times that we use for finding these solutions or ideas, so that every single idea is cached in a post-it or in the computer, and that nothing is lost in the session. Okay, something that we can think about is that when doing these brainstorming innovation processes, when thinking about not deferring judgment, it's basically means that nobody should ever take one idea as silly. There are no silly ideas on a brainstorming session, and everybody is in their very greatest right to put out there even the wildest ideas, okay? Also, you as a moderator should encourage outside of the box ideas. So some things that cross-pollinate solutions from one industry to another, or something that you say, oh, why I didn't thought about the solution? It's so simple, so interesting, and that feeling on thinking that someone has thought about this idea that nobody ever thought of. That's the definition of thinking outside the box. Okay, there are no buts in a brainstorming session, only ands. You know, if someone says, oh, what about solving this with a crazy laser technology that does this and that? And if someone says, but no, that's a forbidden thing, you should build up on ideas. And for example, if someone says, oh, I want to solve, what about solving this with this laser and laser? And you say, oh, and what about doing that with this other thing? And that mixing of ideas brings better ideas. And bots should be avoided in all sense possible, because when you do something with a bot, it's always gonna turn down the energy and the type of solutions that are going to come from a brainstorming session. Of course, you have to aim for quantity, because even if you think that some ideas might be really good, later on when you validate the feasibility of many of them, you're going to see that they might not be as good ideas. And so you want to go for quantity here, because the more the better, the more the merrier. And the more ideas that there are, the more likely is that those concepts, when put together or when filtered down, they're going to bring concepts that are not even feasible, but commercially viable, but also good for solving the root cause of the problems. There is always one conversation at a time, as we said. Okay, so let the people always talk. The moderator has to be really strict on this. If someone is talking, everybody should let that person talk. Nonetheless, as a moderator, you probably have to specify that idea should be expressed in a very short way. So no more than 30 seconds, no more than 1 minute to explain a concept, because in that way the conversation it's more likely to go further instead of sticking on one single part of the brainstorming session. And of course, being visual by using toys or tools, or by drawing over the post-its or in a whiteboard. You should encourage, as a moderator and you as a participant of the brainstorming session, you should encourage that everybody draws their concept so that everybody understands the concept in that moment, so that they can build upon that. Because if nobody understands the concept of someone else, even if it's a great concept, then nobody is going to ever be able to build up on that. And possibly that idea is going to go into the trash because nobody understood it. You have to think on again, allowing for free thinking, but always constricted to define design criteria. So we want a solution that meets this, and this, because that comes from the scoring of needs and also from what the market wants. Because if you do open innovation is necessary, but you have to do smart innovation, and smart innovation includes getting and creating crazy concepts, but that are also viable, feasible, and that tackle the right problems. And with this, we have to think that the more thinking, the better. And by mapping the concepts and ideas, you're going to be able to track them down and to not lose that information, which is very, very valuable. We can see a little bit about this challenge on brainstorming, right? It says, quick, get that idea down, because if you don't, it's going to lose it. And this couldn't be more true in the face of brainstorming sessions and ideation of new concepts. Sometimes you're going to see that the best concepts out there come from one single person that said like something that nobody thought it was possible, or that nobody actually paid a lot of attention. But many of these critical concepts that you have to add to complex solutions sometimes are brought to the table in the most odd fashions. So write everything down, register everything, and try to do these brainstorming sessions as agile and productive as possible. And our practical case, as we thought, is going to take a look at a specific medical device that IDEO developed, or that IDEO designed for the medical device industry. At the very beginning, the problem was simple. It's like there is a tool that surgeons are not using because of these and reasons. Those were the design criteria inputs, and those were the inputs where the brainstorming sessions on how to solve the idea started, okay? So there was a needed statement, how to make this more usable or more easy to use, or how to make the surgeon more agile on using this type of tool of electrosurgery or whatever it was. That was in the table, and of course the design constrictions surrounding that problem. With that in mind, the brainstorming session started. And something really truly impressive that you can see is that one of the very early prototyping things that was done during these first brainstorming sessions actually became the basis of how the product finally looked like. In this sense, the first prototype for this innovation project was done with tape and some material that you can take from your office. And basically, what is impressive about this is that sometimes to do early prototyping does not mean to spend a lot of money on rapid prototyping. It's like rapid early prototyping could mean grabbing everything that you have in hand and try to convey your idea on how the thing works with the simplest tools and things possible. And basically what happened with this is that once an industrial designer actually catched what the doctors that were in the same room, right? What the doctors really wanted, he went to his office, grabbed a bunch of things, and constructed this prototype and said, okay, is this what you're talking about? And they were like, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And to do this early prototyping during brainstorming sessions is something that not a lot of people do. But it's something that could actually lead to very interesting innovation, and an innovation that it's quick and easy to convey. You can see here that this was the final prototype, which basically looks really similar, at least in the basic shapes of that early prototyping. Of course, it's more complex and it requires a lot more of engineering. But if that very early stage prototype wasn't done the way it was, and if that brainstorming session didn't convey the idea that that was exactly the type of shapes and graphs that these doctors needed to perform this surgery with this tool, then this innovation wouldn't have been possible ever. That concludes our practical case on IDEO. What you have to remember is that early stage prototyping is something really important, might not be taken into account sometimes in brainstorming sessions. You should put toys and things that stimulate creativity and early stage prototyping in the table when you are doing brainstorming. The same way you're putting post-its and whiteboards and things to write stuff down. And basically you have to be open for anything to come up with those creativity sessions, but always thinking that the right people should be in that same room with you, because if you are alone in this room with other 3 engineers only, then adequate innovation is less likely to happen. So put everybody in the same room, everybody that is a stakeholder if possible. Open innovation. There are not bots, but ants. Everybody has something valuable to say. Register everything and bring a creativity setting to the table. With this, we can conclude this session on brainstorming and ideation. For more information about this process on IDEO and on the idea of creating brainstorming sessions specifically for medical device innovation, please take a look at on our chapter on innovation and brainstorming sessions from the biodesign group of biodesign book of Seniors. My name is Luis Soengsen, and thank you for watching.